Back during the BT5 format, I did a security control deck profile. It mainly focuses more on yellow cards for recovery and DP reduction effects. But for BT6, security control has become a whole lot stronger, and it's very easily being one of the top tier decks or even potentially the tier 1 deck of the BT6 format. Hello Digimon players and fans, welcome back to another deck profile video. Security Control is known to be a very unusual type of deck, where you do not digivolve or build a Digimon stack at all. Instead, you focus on hard playing high cost Mega Digimon with various effects that makes it difficult for your opponent to attack you. And then from there, you use those Digimon to slowly whittle down your opponent's security to win your game, which is your win condition. There is also an abundance of options that you play which can be activated from the security, which is why the type of deck is called Security Control. Last format, I concluded that the yellow base was the best way to play Security Control, and I continue to stand by that, along with the black being as the secondary supportive color for this format. With the introduction of cards like Reinforcing Memory Boost and Wyvern's Breath, and a variety of new black cards such as AVAULT Swarmer, Iron Fisted Onslaught, and Izzy Joe, the deck has become extremely powerful and very difficult to play against. With that being said, we'll also have some very interesting spice to add on for this particular build. So let's get right into the deck profile, as I will also give you guys some tips and tricks for optimal plays for every card as well. So to begin with our Digi-Egg cards, we played the 4 copies of Cupomon right here. Now Cupomon and the Digi-Egg this time does matter a lot for the yellow base build in particular, simply because of its inheritable of when attacking, if you have 5 or more security, you get to draw a card. And being in the early game, draw power is very crucial for security control, and being able to do so and swing in the early game is totally fine so that you can get that extra draw to help you get a little bit more resources, which really helps boost it off. So if only 4 eggs is that all you need, and that's the 4 Cupomons that we run. So now moving into our first rookies, we first play the 4 copies of Salamon. This one's just really good in situations when you're running lower in security, when you have 3 or less. On deletion you get to recover 1, which is really great, because in the later games or in the mid games when your security is low, you can use this to swing in and then basically recover and get a lot of value out of it, which is one of the best rookies to play in this deck. Also, it digivolves on top of Cupomon, but making early swings with Salamon is not too bad as well. Next, we do have the 3 Bushi Agumon right here, and Bushi Agumon is also a digivolving potential, but it actually has a really nice effect because of Rush. We can actually go for game-winning plays, and there is a really cool game-winning combo that I will showcase you guys later with Bushi Agumon along with other cards, and that's the whole reason why we play with it. We don't need 4 necessarily. 3 is a really good amount, and often enough we can see it, and that's really it for Bushi. The last rookie that we do play is the 1 Lucemon right here. Lucemon is just generically the really good card because on play you just basically recover with no requirements at all, and then you get extra security later in the game. When you have more 10 or more cards in your trash, you can basically play this for just for 5 cost, which is even better. And there's a lot of effects that lets you bring this guy out for free, which is really good. And usually some people like to play 2 copies of this card, but I think 1 is really good for me. I don't want to see it too often in the early game, so I do want to limit down the copies, and 1 just works really great overall. So like I mentioned before, this is a security control based deck, so there's no level 4s whatsoever. We're just going to jump straight into the level 5s. And the first level 5 we are playing is, of course, the classic or the most important 4 copies of Magna Angemon. Magna Angemon is basically on play you recover 1, and that's really all he does, and that's why you play security control. Really great card. It also has a pretty decent inherited effect where during your turn this Digimon gets 1000 DP for every 3 security cards you have. It's very easy to get up to 6 with this Digimon, and then when you do digivolve it, you can give your Digimon extra 2000 DP during your turn, which works out very great. So that's the 4 copies that we must play. Next, for the other level 5, I do have the 2 Mistymon right here. Mistymon is just another great level 5 to hard play so that you can reduce your opponent's Digimon by 3000 DP. You can choose two of them and basically get rid of some pesky rookies out there, which is really good. And then afterwards, you can Digivolve into your level 6 with it, which helps out really nicely. So that's it for our level 5s. And jumping into our level 6 Megas, we'll start off with the 4 copies of Magnadramons. And Magnadramons, we all know what this card does. Basically, you get to recover 2 security on play if you have 3 or less security. And it's just really good because, you know, being able to recover, sustain longer into the game, which makes it very hard for your opponent to basically defeat you or try to chip you away. They have to go for one-shot strategies in order to overcome security control, and Magnadramon basically does the job. It does have a second effect, which is really good at synergizing with the overall build and strategy of this deck, because when you attack, you can play a yellow level 3 Digimon from your hand without paying its memory cost. So our usual targets can be Lucamon, like we saw earlier, would be our Salamon and our Bushi Agumon. Bushi Agumon works just perfectly great because you can use that swing for game with Rush as well. However, you would rarely want to Digivolve this card simply because you want to save it on your hand to do the hard on play when you need to. Sometimes you might want to Digivolve this card, but you won't get your on play effect, so you're not really getting your value. But however, sometimes it does work out quite okay if you really need to, you know, just to get that extra draw and then utilize mostly its secondary effect. And switching gears to play more aggressively in the early game with this card can actually sometimes work. Now next, we have a sort of newer card that we would talk about. Not really exactly new, but we do have 4 copies of Sakuyamon, which is from the BT5 right here. Now, Sakuyamon does quite a few things. During your opponent's turn, mainly is that when your opponent's Digimon moves from the breeding area into the raising area, that Digimon gets security -3. Now, why is this really important? Because this effect became very relevant for this current format. Decks like Jesmon, decks like Gabubond, Agubond, a lot of stuff come out of the breeding area and then they're ready to go for their one-shot combos with their big game-winning plays. Now Sakuyamon just straight up denies that, which is really good because you slow down your opponent's lethal potential and slow down their plays so greatly. They have to like play around very awkwardly, and it makes it very difficult for them. And especially if you don't have removal that can instantly deal with Sakuyamon, it's gonna be really difficult for them to basically defeat you in one go. It also has a second effect where during your turn, all of your opponent's security Digimon gets -3000 DP, allowing you to swing in and check in very safely. Now, I would rarely want to swing in with Sakuyamon unless if I know it's very safe to do so. And the reason why I play 4 copies of this card, and it works very well in this particular build, is simply because of the level 5s we play, where we can Digivolve this rather than having to hard play and give way too much memory to our opponent. And Digivolving this on top of our Magnadramon or our Mistymon just works really nicely. Therefore, 4 copies works really great, and we want to see this as soon as possible, as often as possible, especially when we're countering those matchups like I mentioned earlier. Now right here, we're just about to review another level 6 that we play in this deck, and it's basically the ultimate spice. Just before I show you guys, subscribe to the channel right now. That is because we've got many even more amazing and spicy deck profiles to show you guys coming real soon. So click that button right away and stay tuned. Also, I would greatly appreciate it if you guys could hit that like button while at it as well, because it really helps with the YouTube algorithm. Now back to revealing the spicy level 6. Now you guys are going to be ready for this little spice, because this is going to be really cool. And right here we basically play 2 Mastodons in a security control deck. And yes, you guys might be asking, it's like, what are you thinking about? Because security control, you want to keep your security, no? Because Mastodon's going to trash one of your securities. Well, this is not exactly the case. This is how I kind of look at it first. Yeah, usually with security control, you have so much security cards in your stack. Trashing 1 or 2 is really not that much of a problem. Yes, you lose a bit of value, but with Mastodon right here, if you're able to chip away your opponent's security down to 2 or 3, once you have Mastodon, they're basically in lethal. And I'm going to show you guys a really cool combo in the end after this deck profile right here, how you can utilize Mastodon. But with that being said, Mastodon can basically help you bring back your Lucamons, Salamons, Bushi Agumons, the same way as Magnadramon does, but you can really utilize this card effectively and basically go in for a game surprisingly, and your opponents would usually do not expect that in a security control based deck, which is really cool. And I really love this card, and it works really well. The reason why I only need to play copies despite it being so good is because we'll see it often enough. You know, we only need that one copy of Massimon to make that one big play for our turn, so we really don't need to have 3 or 4, because having that too many of those will basically be kind of bricky for us. Now, the other reason is that why Massimon is so good is because you can Digivolve on top of your level 5s. Now, this deck has a lot of ways to sustain a lot of memory during your turn, which is why Massimon being a 4 cost to Digivolve is still very fine, because we have so much memory to work with. You can still always easily retain your turn after playing Massimon and go off with your combos and continue attacking and pressuring your opponent before passing it back to them. Now, that last reason why Massimon is so good is because it's a purple Digimon, allowing you to Digivolve Zwart Defeat on top of it afterwards in certain situations. Now, we do play 4 Zwart Defeats right here, and Zwart Defeat is, of course, you know, the security control boss monster that comes out with security, lots of pressure, 13 KDP with an on deletion effect that's very high pressure on your opponents. Still a very relevant and strong card, but since we're playing 4 copies, we're often enough, rather than seeing in security, we can actually see this card in our hand. And having this card in our hand sometimes kind of sucks, but now with playing Massimon, we can actually Digivolve this on top of Massimon, and then basically delete a Tamer on our opponent's side of the board as well, which is really good, because once Massimon comes out, it's kind of not as useful as it is. It serves its purposes with its when Digivolving effects. It doesn't provide any other long-term value, so Digivolving on Zwart Defeat gives you even greater value, which is really nice, and that's the reason why I really like Massimon along with Zwart Defeat in this particular build, and it just works so well. So that'll be all of our Digimon. Let's go into our Tamers and Options. Now, for the options, let's start off with the options and talk about like the yellow package, since this is the yellow based deck. Right here, I basically play the 4 copies of Reinforcing Memory Boost. It is kind of a shame that this card is going to be restricted to 1 within a month's time, but right now we're going to try to enjoy this card as much as we can. Reinforcing Memory Boost is just incredibly strong, and I understand why they restricted it. It's a 6 cost option which lets you recover a security and add a card to your hand, and afterwards it also memory boosts you for 3 memory during your turn, and that's just really insane. The older builds of security control would play Holy Wave, and Holy Wave is also a 6 cost yellow option which simply lets you recover 1. Now, if you compare that card to Reinforcing Memory Boost, you guys can see why Reinforcing Memory Boost is so much better. You do so much more things for the same amount of memory you spend. And this card just gives you so much value, and this is one of the reasons why this card makes security control extremely powerful in this current format. And you have to play a 4 of, no less. The next one is Wyvern's Breath right here. Basically the newer version of 7th Heavens, or 7 from the Heavens. Basically the one that reduces your opponent's Digimon by 10 KDP. This one reduces your opponent's Digimon by 15 KDP for an extra cost of 1, where you play 8 cost instead of 7. And this is like the Gaia Force of the deck, where you no longer need to play Gaia Force, because almost every Digimon in this current format, they're all 15k. They can't get any higher, except for Jesmon at times. But Wyvern's Breath is just so good because it's yellow, it deals with most of the strongest Digimon in the game anyways instantly, which is why we want to play 4 of this card as well. I have one more sort of tech option right here. Not really exactly tech, I'd say, but I just play a 1 copy of it, which is Eden's Javelin. I'm sort of trying to test it out at the moment to see what other card I like to play, but Eden's Javelin is just great as well because you can get to draw a card and you can basically count the cards of the number of your hand and then delete one of your opponent's Digimon that has 1000 DP for each card in your hand, essentially. So, you know, the more cards you have in your hand, the better value that this card is. You guys can easily swap this card out with anything you guys personally like as a tech choice, but, you know, I just play the 1 Eden's Javelin simply because I like it. So that'll be it for our yellow options. We don't play any yellow Tamers. So we're going to start off with our black package right here. Now, in our black package with our Tamers, we play the new Tamer, Izzy, and Joe from Double Diamond. Now, these guys are just insanely good because at the start of your turn, as long as your opponent controls 2 or more Digimon on play, you gain 2 extra memory. I actually kind of want to max out this at 4, but I'm also testing another tamer along with it as well, which is really good, but we'll get to show you guys in a bit. That's the only reason why you play this card. Basically, it will easily bring your turn up to 7 memory or even 5 memory, at least 5 memory every single turn, simply because of these, and having multiple copies is even greater value, which is why this card is insanely good. Now, it has a second effect, but we don't play the second effect at all because we don't have any black Digimon, but that's totally okay because that's all we play these 2 guys for, essentially, as tamers. Now, for the other black tamer, we have 1 Izzy. We need to play a lot of black tamers because we have a lot of black option cards, so maxing out at least at 4 black tamers is crucial in this deck. If you guys don't like Izzy, you guys can play another extra copy of Izzy and Joe as well. That works really well. But I like this Izzy in general because we always get to set ourselves at 3 memory, and combination with Izzy Joe, the other tamer, together, we can always start at 5 very consistently, which is really nice. And this is the classic Izzy where we can still get to review the top 3 and sort of rearrange our cards and sort of set up, which is really good. And that's the reason why I play the Izzy. We'll never gain the memory from it though. So now moving to our black option cards. Of course, we have the 3 new Iron Fisted Onslaught. Delete all of your opponent's Digimon with the highest play cost. That's really simple. It's, sometimes in conditions it can be board wipe. Very good against like Jesmon, simply because it can just wipe out that Jesmon instantly. If they have multiples of Megas or whatever your opponent has that has the same play cost, you get to board wipe them, and much better than Gaia Force, I would say, in certain scenarios. That's the whole reason why you play that. Next, we have still one of the best, I would say, arguably, or even I would say second best, but definitely very notable and considerable option card, which is Ultimate Flare from BT5. De-Digivolve 3 and then delete everything that is play cost 3 or less on your opponent's side. Still really good, still very relevant, very good against so many decks right now. Playing around a lot of like protection effects, de-digivolving is just incredibly good. So this is why you play 3 Ultimate Flare. And then next we do have another new one, which is, we call it Goalt or Joalt Schwarmer. Another really good card that can board wipe. So what it does is basically delete all Digimon on the board that has 7 play costs or less. And keep in mind that it includes your own Digimon. So you gotta be a little bit careful, which is why I only like to play 2. Some people like to play 3 or 4 because it's just really good in wiping out boards in general. But I keep 2 so that I can keep it in my hand, play it at the right time when I really need to instead, and not really go too aggressive with this card. But I still really like it generally, nonetheless. Now for the last card I like to talk about and show you guys is another kind of like a tech spice type of thing, or a little bit like a little pinch of salt right there, which is the good old BT5 tie and mat right here. At the start of your turn, if your opponent has a level 6 or higher Digimon, you gain 2 memory, which is great, fantastic, giving you lots of value from that. And since we do play Zwart Defeat in this deck, and we do max out at 4 copies, I still really like the fact how this combos so well with Zwart Defeat, especially in the early game, giving your Zwart Defeat 2 checks every time it swings, and it can help you excel and potentially win the game so much faster than the traditional way of security control. The traditional way of security control is good, very powerful, very good at controlling, but I feel like it stalls the game too long. And like I mentioned in my other couple videos, where time issues are a huge thing, which is why I think the yellow build is best, because you allow to yourself to play more aggressively, and you can win games a lot more faster than the traditional stall security control. So which is why I like this as a single tech card. You guys can easily replace this with something else that you guys like, more options instead, if whatever, but that will be it for our 40 card deck profile right here. Now, of course, I want to show you guys the Mastemon combo right here, the lethal one of Y, showcasing why she is such a good card in this deck. Now, you sort of need to fulfill several conditions. You need to have a level 5 on board at the beginning of the turn, and then you would need like probably 1 Bushi, 1 Salamon, or 1 Lucamon, whatever you need depending on the situation, which works out for you. But having these guys in the bottom of your trash will help out really greatly. And you just need to start at your turn with like 1 memory. There's many ways to get to above 4 memory right here, so you don't need to have all these tamers, but I'm just showing the variety of different ones you can have. All these guys basically help you go beyond 4 memory. If you have double Izzy Joe, they have more Digimon, it brings you all the way to 5. If you have just Izzy itself, it brings you to 3, along with a combo of Izzy and Joe will get you to 5 as well.
If you're exactly at 1 and you have nothing but reinforcing memory boost, it will bring you to 4. So you know that you just need to make sure that the condition of being able to play Mastimon and retain your turn is met right there. So anyways, simply let's just say you're at 4 from whatever reason, you pop the memory boost, so you go to 4 and then you go to 0 basically with Mastimon right here, and then Mastimon will use its effect. You get to draw for digivolving, it doesn't matter what you draw, and then Mastimon can basically allow you to play any of these 3 guys back. Your opponent will also trash your security, so if they're at 2 security left, or 2 security left, they're basically at lethal range right there, because that means they only have 1 security left after Mastimon's effect, and then you swing with these 2 guys and basically defeat them right there. Usually you will have a lot more other Digimon on the board already to make those extra swings. You definitely have at least another Digimon usually. Let's just say you had an Elusimon earlier. If your opponent has 3 security, you use Mastimon's effect to trash, they're down at 2, there's 3 swings right here for you to basically end the game. And that's just really cool, and I really like Mastimon because of that, to basically play that combo. Now there's a certain situation where I mentioned about Zord defeat, and if you do have Zord defeat and let's just say you can't end them right here, for some reason, again, you're back at 5 memory, you might boost yourself to 7, whatever it is, you know, let's just say you're at 6, and then you pay 4, so you go to 2, digivolve into Mastimon, and then afterwards you do your swings, do your checks, and then when you're about to end your turn, you can easily pay 3 memory, digivolve Mastimon onto a Zord defeat. It may be suspended because you made a check earlier, whatever, and then you delete a Tamer as well, and that's just incredibly strong combo right here alongside with it, and I just really like it. So I hope this helps, as gives you guys a very clearer idea of why Mastimon is so good along with this yellow build as the unique spice of the deck.
That will conclude for my very own deck building strategy and guide for the yellow and black security control deck. If you guys enjoyed the video and found it helpful, please give it a like. If you guys have any suggestions, recommendations, or questions, be sure to share it with everyone in the comments down below. We got lots of more deck profiles coming real up soon, so be sure to hit that subscribe button right now and turn on that notification bell to stay tuned. As always, thank you so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you in the next video, and this is AVAULT, signing out.